me about yourself.
Hi, Coach Aisha. Thank you so much for having me first, by the way. I am super excited to be here. So my name is Maureen, and I'm a certified Scrum Master, Agile coach, and Agile transformation professional. And in my career as an Agile practitioner, I've worked with several organizations, supporting them in their transformation journey. I've also been able to work with, several teams. I mean, a lot of teams, supporting them and guiding them, how we do it, the product owner role, supporting product owners, stakeholders, Scrum team, developers to ensure that, we're continuously delivering value to our customers, right? And in all of my career, I've been able to also help us and coach and mentor Scrum Masters. And with Coach Aisha here, I do partner with Coach Aisha to support Scrum Masters who are on the job, right? Because we know this job is very challenging, right? And so we've been there and we had this vision to support Scrum Masters on the job. And so we do that. And we've had great success in supporting our Scrum Masters, right? And just for the record too, I also have a consulting firm where I partner with organizations in supporting them with their transformation journey, agile transformation, and also one-on-one with Scrum Masters as needed, supporting them on the job. And yeah, so that's a little bit about me. So yeah, thank you for having me again, Coach Aisha.
Thank you, Coach Maureen. Welcome back to Aisha's Scrum. I'm very happy to have you join my platform. For my current subscribers and my new subscribers, I welcome you all to the channel. And thank you all so much for subscribing to this channel. And if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, right now is the time for you to do so that you will not miss all this wonderful experience Agilists will be bringing to this channel. Take your time and register. Not register. Take your time and subscribe to this channel so that you won't miss anything. And if you're interested in mentorship, do not hesitate to email us at admin@aishascrumtech.com. And today's video, we have the honor to have our very own Coach Maureen, right? As Coach Maureen already was saying, Coach Maureen is part of Aisha Tech, and she's one of the lead senior mentor for the whole new Scrum Masters that are coming in, needing support on the job support. And Coach Maureen has played a huge role supporting a lot of our Scrum Master in Aisha Tech. And it's a huge pleasure to have her today in our platform to share her wealth of knowledge with you all. So thank you, Coach Maureen. Now, let's get into the next question. So, Coach Maureen, so far in your experience working as a Scrum Master and also supporting different Scrum Masters, Junior Scrum Master, what is the role of a Scrum Master during releases?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? A really great question. So I know in our Scrum Master role and also going by the Scrum Guide, we have responsibilities of a Scrum Master, right? And so a lot of times Scrum Masters will feel like certain roles are not for them. But for the purpose of this video, I'll stick to that question. But just to add this one thing, if you have the opportunity to play any other role outside of the Scrum Master role that can help you in your own skill building, please do it, right? In my experience, I've worn so many different shoes, even though I had the title of a Scrum Master. So one of those is my support in when it comes to planning the releases, right? So it's definitely going to be a little bit different for every organization, depending on what product you're working with and, the way your organization is functioning, is built up and all of that good stuff. But when it comes to the role of a Scrum Master in releases, based on my experience, I've always made sure that the first thing you want to do, especially when you join an organization, is to understand how do they even go about their releases, right? So do they have like a regular cadence that their releases are happening, right? And how long are those cadences? Because remember, you want to make sure that you're not keeping your customers waiting for too long. Like when I say too long, like 6 months, 1 year. So you understand what their cadence is and try to advise appropriately, And also if there is no cadence on how it's going to be, the releases is going to happen, or maybe you're just joining for a new project, what you can do in that scenario is make sure there's a release planning, right? Make sure you get the right people in the room. When I talk of the right people, the product owner, product manager, and stakeholders, or anyone else who is directly related to that project or product, right? And make sure that you have this meeting to discuss what is the cadence, how often will you all be, deploying to production or to your customers, and also how what are the functionalities that you're going to be, deploying at what time, right? So it's very important to know how you're going to be releasing and when you're going to be releasing. So when you have that understanding and that alignment, and then as a Scrum Master, I highly, highly encourage you to work closely with your product owner, because your product owner is responsible for that backlog. And so when you work closely with them, you'll be able to help with identifying and tracking which product backlog items are going for what release, for what particular release, right? So it is very important to ensure that fixed versions are added to those product backlog items, for those who use Jira, by the way, right? So that you're able to track and know, how are my releases going to be done? Are my tickets all ready before the release date, right? So it is very, very important to do that. Something I do also in sprint planning is to ensure that I have that as part of the agenda. We need to put in fixed versions for every single product backlog item. So that way we can track our release burn down chart to see, okay, our release is in a month's time. So how prepared are we? What user stories are left, right, to be completed so that we can meet our goal for the release, right? So that's a big thing. And the third thing as a Scrum Master that you can follow up through with is to ensure that there's a checklist, there's a release checklist or a deployment checklist. I know you're not the one to come up with this checklist. Again, you need to have the right people in the room. Very important. Of course, your product owner has to be in that room. You need to have your subject matter expert and maybe one or two of your developers and a QA resource, right? A QA person in that meeting. So for your checklist, the most important things you're trying to identify, what are the activities that you do, right? So pre-deployment, what are the activities that you do? Are there any kinds of risk that you need to identify that can occur, right, after this release that is expected or even not expected? Are there any kinds of risk? You also identify, are there any security changes, any kinds of changes that can happen, right, after you do this release that you're aware of? And then any other pre-deployment tasks that your team thinks that is important or your organization thinks is important to have. And also, when it comes to the stage environment, the demo environment, and the actual production itself or deployment itself, your team or your developers who are responsible for deployment should be able to guide you and give you the steps in which they do the releases, right? In order. So in that checklist, you have everything in order so that there is no confusion. When you have your checklist all outlined, it is so important. It's a big part to your success, right? And another part of this checklist should be a rollback plan. So if our releases don't go as planned, so if our release is not successful, what next? What do we do, right? We should plan ahead of time. So this checklist will help you to be able to, navigate around your releases and know who is doing what. Very important, because for all of those different items on your checklist, you have an action item owner. So who is doing what at what time? So that's very important to have when it comes to releases. So I will highly encourage a Scrum Master, if your organization does not have a release manager, please do well to bring in this new practice or this, this good way of working, because obviously I think it's a great way of working when it comes to releases. And I also think that the Scrum Master should be able to follow through with the developers to ensure that if there are any bugs that need to be, addressed, if there are any risks you need to follow through with, if there is anything at all that's going to deprive you of from releasing your product, let the people who are supposed to know, right? So that way they can plan either to avoid those risks or to look for different means to mitigate those risks, right? So please, Scrum Masters, ensure that, if you have any challenges, your stakeholders are aware of, you escalate them so that they can be resolved ahead of you having a no-go a go no goes meeting or cutoff for your deployment. So yeah, those are some of the activities or some of the things that Scrum Masters can do that will really help the team to have a successful deployment.
That's very nice. So I know you've built such a good job about steps it takes for some Scrum Master to support the releases. So what happens when a Scrum Master tells you, because I know like as you be like a senior Scrum Master, when you have a junior Scrum Master telling you, oh, releases is not in the Scrum guide, and why are you asking me to do this? Why would you ask me to do that? So how can we better prepare our young Scrum Master to have such mindsets like you are explaining?
Yeah. I mean, what I would say to the young Scrum Masters, I think I mentioned this quite earlier on. Please, if you have the opportunity to do anything else outside of your Scrum Master role, please grab it. You'll be amazed at how much you will grow in your own self, how much knowledge you will gain, and the other skills that you'll be able to acquire along your journey, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not just about I'm a Scrum Master, I'm not going to do anything else. Your goal is to ensure that everything else is working, right? Aside from your team, how is the organization going? Are we delivering across the board quality products to our customers across the board? Are we able to follow certain guidelines that will help us? So as a Scrum Master, please take every opportunity and work on it because it's for your own personal growth, right? The knowledge that you have, nobody else can take that from you. So that is going to be part of you, and that's going to add to your portfolio that will help you to even scale further, right? So yeah, please take advantage of any other task that you're given in your organization to make positive change and to ensure continuous delivery, to ensure continuous growth and improvement.
Yes, very good answer, Coach Maureen. So now tell me, how can you, as a Scrum Master, help prep Agile teams for release?
Yeah, that's a good question, Coach Aisha. So I think I kind of like already responded to this one, but to prep Agile teams for release is pretty much the same role that a Scrum Master will do, right? So we want to first of all make sure that we are aware of what we need to release, right? So when we are aware of every item that needs to go into a release, and then we follow the procedure, right? So in all of our daily Scrum meetings, in all of our sprint plannings, in all of our backlog refinements, you're making sure that you're following through with your product owner and the rest of the Scrum teams to make sure that we have a roadmap, right? So our roadmap actually would determine the items that we're working on. And so if we already know what we are going to be releasing, that should be very visible on our roadmap, right? So this is what we have on our roadmap. This is a cut out time. So when we are planning any releases, we should be working towards that roadmap. So your goal as a Scrum Master is to ensure that in all of our Scrum events, we are watching our roadmap and we are making sure that we are planning towards meeting our commitment for our deadline for our releases, right? So of course, I will ensure that all of our Scrum Masters in our train are aware of all of this information and following through with all of the different Scrum Masters in the different teams to make sure that we're all aligned in what needs to go out and who needs to do what, right? So yeah.
Very well said. So now let's talk about what are some typical challenges, right, a Scrum Master might face during releases.
Yeah, that's a good one. So during releases, I would say during release, a lot of organizations don't even want Scrum Masters to be there during the release, to be honest, because what are you doing there, right? There's really nothing you're doing during the release itself, but there's a lot that you can do prior to that release. So some of the challenges you can face or that I've faced in my own experience is communication. Because a lot of times, especially when you're dealing with dependencies, it's very hard to get the other teams to get what you need to you fast enough for you to be able to meet your own deadline for your teams, right? So I would say that's the biggest challenge that a Scrum Master will face when it comes to prepping for the release. So, and also another thing is if you are in an organization that they have a lot of bugs, right? That could really be frustrating because you now be like, okay, you need to set a lot of meetings to follow through on, okay, how do we resolve this bugs, especially if there are a lot of them. How do we resolve this bug so that we're able to meet our deadline, right? And so you find yourself getting all of these meetings going and even pulling other people from other teams to help you so that you're able to meet this. So those are some of the challenges that you will face. But overall, please make sure you work very closely with your product owner because he can also guide on what is actually truly required for our release as opposed to what can wait, right? So he's able to prioritize those things with help prioritize those items in ensuring that the team is ready to release, basically.
That's very, very good. So thank you so much for the release. Now let's switch gear a little bit, right? Now let's
Yeah.
talk about some challenges like teams, Scrum teams sometimes might face, or any different Agile team might face. So let's assume that you had a product owner that came in the middle of the sprint, and after sprint planning, the sprint already started, and this product owner come in and stated that, whoa, by the way, Maureen, we have this new work that's coming, and we have to include this in our sprints at this moment. And let's assume in this case, you have 3 days remaining before the sprint close. What would you do as a Scrum Master?
That's a really good question, right? And that's a typical thing that happens almost all the time in our teams, right? So for a new product owner that comes in, first of all, I know maybe he comes in and there might be not so much time for us to have a conversation, but if a PO brings that up and says, "Oh, this is a item that needs to get in," the first thing I'll do is to meet with him before even meeting with the team. So I'm aware that this item needs to get into the sprint. So we have just 3 days left in the sprint. Can this actually wait for us to, finish and wrap up the sprint and then we pick it up in the next sprint? What is the urgency and priority of this item, right? How urgent is it? So I think if the PO is able to tell me that this is very urgent, right? And it's of high priority, definitely I would, have him bring that over to the team so the team can discuss that ticket, refine that ticket, make sure it has all of the information, and then we can discuss how we're going to go about it in the next steps, right? So it is very important, first of all, to address the urgency and priority of that, scope creep. So that way we can properly plan towards it. So in this case, let's assume that it is urgent. So we bring it to the team and be like, okay, team, we have this urgent item. We want to satisfy our customers. This is priority for our customers. So we want to satisfy them. So how do we go about this, right? Let's estimate this. Let's make sure all the details are there. And let's say that they estimated it to be an 8, right? An 8 story point. The next question I'll ask the team is, okay, team, so this is an 8 story point. We already had a commitment for the sprint. How confident are you that we can still achieve our sprint goal and still complete this urgent item for the customer, right? And so I will leave the team to make that determination. Are we able to meet that or we're not able to meet that? If they say, oh, we're able to complete both items, good and fine. We're going to leave all of the items in that sprint for the team to complete because why? We trust our team, right? We believe in them and we know that, they can deliver as promised. And if the team says that, oh, we will not be able to complete this, we've had several meetings and we're trying to wrap up and all of these excuses, of course, then we can do trade-off, right? Try to trade off either a similar item story points, making sure that we keep our sprint goal, intact, or we can take off maybe a story point that they are confident that if they take it off, they'll be able to complete and wrap up, complete our sprint goal and still deliver on the urgent item, right? So I will leave that determination for the team to do, and then we conclude on how we're going to go ahead with and then get both issues resolved before the end of our sprint.
That's really good. Speaking about sprints and thinking about the steps and things it takes for us to get our story ready, right? When it comes to definition of ready, what are some things a Scrum Master should be aware of?
Yeah, that's a really good one because I know there's some conspiracy around, oh, we can start our sprints with, certain stories, even though they are not fully ready. We start, but when it comes to definition already, I think it is very crucial, because if we're taking any story into the sprint that is not well refined, that does not meet the invest criteria, we run a risk of not completing it before the end of the sprint, right? And when I talk of invest criteria, I'm talking about, is the story independent? Does it have dependencies? Are we going to be relying on some other team or some other person to complete something before we get that story completed, right? Is the story negotiable? Are we able to negotiate? Are the developers able to negotiate on that story? Is the story estimable? Are we able to estimate it, right? Is it small enough that it can fit into the sprint? Is it testable, right? So we need to make sure that all of these criteria are met before we actually pull the ticket into the sprint. So that way we are sure that, we'll be able to complete this and be able to deliver on our sprint goals at the end of the sprint. So I think that the Scrum, the definition already, it is very, very important, to have it as part of our process, especially during the refinement session, to make sure that the team is confident that if we take the story into the sprint, we will be able to complete it and be able to deliver a valuable increment to our customers.
Well said. So when it comes to example of definition of ready, in your experience, what does that look like?
Yeah. All right. So for my teams, one very important example of definition of ready is the user story, right? We want to make sure that the user story has the three parts. Who is that story for, right? And what is it that we want to what's the functionality that we want to develop for that user story? And why are we even working on that user story, right? So the who, the what, and the why, it is so important for the team to understand from a user perspective, what is it that they're going to work on and why are they working on that item, right? And another item, so I make sure that for the teams that I support, I make sure that our definition of ready has a well-crafted user story that everybody understands. And another item is our acceptance criteria, right? We need to be able to understand what the user actually wants, right? So how do we even know the user story is completed? We need our acceptance criteria. So those are very important items that need to be in our definition already before we even pull the user stories into the sprint.
That's very well said. So speaking of definition of ready, so now let's talk about definition of done. So when it comes to definition of done, so far in your experience, is it something that your team, you craft together, or is it something that your organization basically craft and hand it to you?
Yeah, this will be very surprising, right? But in all the organizations I've been to, I've actually crafted this together with my Scrum teams. So the organization didn't have a copy. I know the Scrum Guide says the organization can, if the organization has one, then we need to adopt that one, and if we're adding anything else, we need to make everyone aware of, right? But in the organizations that I've been able to support, fortunate to support, we actually crafted this from scratch. So yeah, we did craft it from scratch.
It's funny how you said this because I actually worked for one company that the organization itself had one definition of done, and all of us that was working on this one product, we like almost like 7 different teams, we
Yeah.
all had to follow this list of 50 checklists.
Oh my God.
Was insane. We
That's
all
a
had to
lot.
follow this 50 checklist of what the PMO crafted as the definition of done. And no negotiable, you must follow all those list of criteria. And it's insane.
That's so
And,
funny.
and the team had no say in that, it's only one place so far that I've worked that I actually experienced that. It's interesting how
Yeah.
you've never
Yeah.
experienced that. So now speaking about definition of done, what are some things a Scrum Master should know when it comes to definition of done?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when it comes to definition of done, we want to be able to make sure that if we say a user story is done, we are saying that we are able to release that to our customers, right? And if we're able to release something to our customers, we need to make sure that those things have been well tested. and they are functioning as expected. So one of the things that you can have in your definition of done is that all of your user stories have been tested, all the defects have been addressed before you can consider that to be done, right? I know a lot of times I've worked in an organization where, the organization was the stakeholders were so focused on story points. And so in order for the teams to escape their wrath, they'll be like, okay, we have just this one bug, right? That is left for this user story. And I mean, that's the only little thing that's left. Let's just go ahead and close out this user story and pull the bug to the next sprint. And that's not best practice, right? Our definition of done, if we have a defect, that defect needs to be totally and completely completed before we can consider that user story to be done. So we need to make sure that testing, right? The user story has been completely tested as it's functioning as expected. Another item you can have on your definition of done is all of your acceptance criteria have been met. If a single acceptance criteria has not been met, that tells me that the user story is incomplete, right? And that's why we need to make sure for a definition of ready, all of those things are clearly stated in it, right? And another thing you can have on your definition of done is that either you're doing, if depending on the product you're working on, some products will require a UAT testing to be done, a user acceptance testing, right? So you can have that as part of your process. So you're ensuring that, you're able to test it in the way that the user can use it to make sure that it is actually functioning as expected. There are so many things that can be in your definition of done, but those are very critical things that you need to have in your definition of done to make sure that, that those increments are releasable to the customer.
Very well said, Coach Maureen. So piggyback to what you're saying about team trying to close tasks to stakeholders to make people happy. So as a lead senior Scrum Master, what would you coach a junior Scrum Master if you notice that they're taking partial credit work?
That's a good one. So first of all, right, there are a lot of things that that happen in real life that sometimes, you let go and sometimes you address them, right? So in this scenario, I would definitely reach out to that Scrum Master and find out why they did what they did. I know that's not best practice, but I want to understand why did they do that, And yeah, for that Scrum Master, I'll coach them. It is definitely not okay for us to close out a user story that we know that it's not completed just because we want to be able to, have this high velocity that the stakeholders are, excited about. What is important is the value that we're going to deliver, right? We want to be able to deliver value. We want to be able to limit the tech debts that are going to come later. Because trust me, when you are doing that kind of work where you're taking partial credit and doing, pieces and pieces together, that can really come back to you for interest, right? We run the risk of having tech debts for this particular users, for this particular practice that we're doing. So I'll coach that Scrum Master to ensure that going forward, right, he or she should coach the team on the best practice. So when it comes to user stories, we need to make sure that end to end, everything is completed. Call it out. It doesn't cost a thing. We gotta be respectful in calling it out, but we need to be assertive as Scrum Masters and call these things out so that the teams are aware that it is not best practice. I worked in an organization where when it comes to things like that, people already say like, oh, Maureen is gonna come for me. So they already know these things because I say them all the time and everybody is aware that this is not something that we need to do, right? So yeah, as a Scrum Master, do not be afraid to call things out when you see it. Do not be afraid, to address issues when you see them. I know a lot of times, you're looking at these developers, but trust me, they are also looking at you to be able to help them implement best practices. So yeah, feel free, be assertive, be respectful, and call it out, and definitely they'll be able to, follow through and do what is right.
By the way, if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, right now is the time to do so because we've been bringing a lot of valuable contents to you.
Please
And to
do.
be honest, it's not been easy. Coach Maureen is laughing because she knows there's a lot of behind the scene work I do
Yep.
to these people in here. And
Yes.
oh my God, it's a lot of work. So I will highly appreciate it if you can share this video, like, and comment hire Coach Maureen or not hire Coach Maureen. And also ensure that you subscribe because this will mean a lot to me. And that will also let me know that, okay, Aisha, continue this interview process. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and just put in the
Yes.
comments. That will let me know you've watched this far. If you commented, hire Coach Maureen or not hire Coach Maureen. And watch the video till the end. That's very, very also important.
Yes.
And
Please
Coach Maureen,
subscribe.
and thank you so much for being such a wonderful, very, very detailed and very good answer. I'm so happy about that. And now, so I know you mentor a lot of junior Scrum Masters, a lot of new to practice Scrum Masters. So for Scrum Masters that are going through interview process, what advice do you have for them?
Oh my God. I remember the days, right?
Right?
Yeah. So to all aspiring Scrum Masters, first of all, I want to tell you job well done because it is not an easy journey, right? So when it comes to interviewing, I always love to say that the first thing is your mindset. You want to have a winner mindset. Before you get into any interview at all, have it in your mind that this is the one, right? I'm going to give my best self and I'm going to get this job. So when you get into that room, the aura that you're going to bring, your confidence that you're going to bring, and the way that you speak, right? And even if sometimes the answers do not align, trust me, you might have this job. So the mindset is very, very important to have a right mindset, to have a winner mindset when you get into an interview. Another thing that I will advise Scrum Masters going into interview is that come prepared, right? When you come into an interview, look presentable. Do not come with a scattered hair or looking shabby or anything like that. If you're a lady, please dress up. If you do makeup, feel free, not a wild one, just professionally. Be very professional also in your dressing. Whatever brings you confidence, please do it, right? For me, in the times when I've been going in for interviews, one big thing for me is my nails. I gotta make sure I do my nails, right? So it gives me a lot of confidence when I I see you, Coach Aisha. It gives me a lot of confidence and I make sure I do it, right? So yeah, do your hair, make sure you look good, make sure you look confident and professional. Do your nails, whatever it is that brings you confidence. Another thing that I will advise interviewees is that when you get into an interview and you are asked a question, please do not hurry to answer it, right? Absorb the question. One thing I do is I write the main thing that you're saying down, right? Let's say you're asked, oh, how does a Scrum Master support a product owner and blah, 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 blah. Sometimes they will ask you 3 questions in one. So if you're able to write your question down, you're able to assimilate and think. It gives you time to think, right? And you're thinking, and now you're able to answer the questions as they're asked. You're able to also answer the questions, all of the questions, because you run the risk of missing some questions when you just start answering. And maybe the question was a 3-part question, right? So please feel free to write it. The interviewer is not going to question you while you're writing. They will even understand that you're a detailed person and you'll want to be able to, answer the question appropriately. And let them know that if they see you writing, you just want to make sure that, you answer all of their questions appropriately. And the last thing I will just add is when you're answering interview questions, your confidence should exude from you, right? So be mindful of your tonation, be mindful of how you say the things that you say. If you actually experience something really, really touching or whatever it is, just make sure that you express it in a way that captivates the interviewer, right? So that they feel present and they pick the main points of what you're saying. When you're having an interview and you're just, in one tone or just low in answering that question, that person might even lose interest in what you're saying. But if you're speaking just like I'm saying now, and you're able to raise your voice and bring down your voice and stress on certain words, that interviewer is able to pay attention to what you're saying, right? So yeah, those are some of the advices I can give you when you're preparing for your interview. And of course, there's nothing more important as eye contact with whoever you're interviewing with as well. And for the back part, please make sure you're prepared. So get that knowledge. Get a mentor, please get a mentor, coach. We offer the services in Aisha Tech. We're very excited and very happy to help our people who are coming in as new Scrum Masters into the field. So please feel free to, contact Aisha Tech if you are willing to take on this journey. We make it easy for you. Yeah, we do make it easy, and it's a sweet environment and, cup to be in.
And Coach Maureen is actually the lead coach in Asia Tech in the COP area. She basically runs most of it, and I do most of interviews in level 2. So you all should definitely reach out, if you're interested in mentorship, and you'll see this wonderful Coach Maureen in that. But by the way, Coach Maureen, I also have one question, right? Around, let's say you have a Scrum Master, right?
Yeah.
That have been studying, they have a mentor, they've done all the right thing, right? Went to good program, like look for different like community to be part of, like learn
Yeah.
and also have like some kind of trainings at the side. And they really, really want to do this, and they get their first interview. And they get to the interview, and almost half of the question being asked is what they're not prepared for. How can this Scrum Master survive the interview?
That's a really good one. I've had this happen to me in the past. Remember, as a Scrum Master, right? When it comes, definitely, we need to have a winner mindset, like I said, even as a Scrum Master. So if you find yourself in this situation as a servant leader, don't be too anxious to answer the question. To be honest, it is okay to be vulnerable. It is okay to say you do not know. If you truly do not have an answer, I would 100% advise you to say you do not know, but you are very willing to go back and review that and make sure that in your next interview, you have an answer to that question, right? I've had a scenario where I was asked a question, oh, have I done this in the past? And I know for sure, I didn't even know what that particular thing was. So I was like, well, I haven't done this in the past, but I don't think this is something if I go back and review it and research on it, I will not be able to know. I'll be able to have an answer for you in our next interview. And that tells you I'm already anticipating for the next interview, right? That shows you're confident of what you've already had the conversation with that person. So please don't be afraid to be vulnerable and say you do not know. And if, of course, you have partial answer, do not be afraid to say it. If you have a similar scenario, even though it's not specific to that question, go ahead and say it, right? The part that you know, or the similar aspect of, what they are asking you that you know. And if you do not know the particular thing, tell them you do not know the particular thing, but this is what you know, right? And so, yeah, that's the advice I can give you. Of course, nobody knows everything, so please do not be afraid, right? Do not be afraid. And I'll also add this for those kinds of people that have been going for interviews, you're doing all the right things, you're studying, you are practicing, and you haven't still gotten a job. It is okay. Your day is going to come. All you need to do is pray to God and let God put you in the environment where you're going to thrive in. Because it's one thing to get a job, it's another thing to keep that job, because some environments are, the way they are, right? Which might not, match your goals or your values as a person, right? So pray for God to give you that environment where you thrive and where your voice will be heard and that you're able to, add value to them, right? So it is very important. Your day is going to come. Don't be discouraged. Just keep doing what you're doing. God is watching it and he's going to bless you.
Very, very nice. I love that motivational speech right there. That's important. Sometimes people think, why me? Why me? And to be honest, the market right now, it's not been easy. Like, look at the overall economic in the whole world right now. Everything is just upside down, you know.
Yeah,
So I love that. It's true, like be patient, just keep doing the right thing. And especially if you don't have a mentor too, I will highly encourage you to get one. I know that
please.
helped me a lot too. And
Yes,
it's something
all
for
of
sure.
us.
I know that's something you for sure you can get that can literally transform your whole journey. Even someone that can even at least listen to your concern, like be there, be of a support, be in that
Yes,
community where you all have the same goal and the
go.
same compassion, that all can help, you know. And also, it's funny how when Maureen was saying around people, when it comes, you go to interview, they will ask you a question and you might not know. That exactly also happened to me. That's
Yeah.
true.
And Coach Aisha, you know the funniest thing? I got the job that I said I didn't know about what they
Me
asked
too.
me.
I
Yeah,
did.
I got the job offer. So it is okay. It is okay to say you don't know. It's
I
okay.
love
But
that.
make sure you're adding a statement to that. You're gonna learn it, right? And
Yeah.
you get it. So
Very, very great points, Coach Murray. So, what
Mhm.
questions do you have for Aisha?
Coach Aisha, I don't have a question for you.
All right, Coach Maureen, how can people get to reach out to you, get to want to work with you, people that have interest to want to work with you? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah. So thank you so much for this opportunity, Coach Aisha. It's actually been great working with you. And before even saying how people can reach out to me, I just want to appreciate you, right? I mean, thank you so much for the great opportunity that you gave me. And I am super, super grateful. Working with you has been such a great experience for me. And it's really helped me. I mean, even before that, I want to just say you believing in me, taking this role as your lead coach and mentor for the program. I just want to appreciate you a lot for that because that has really helped me in my growth as well, right? And I love your vision, I buy in your vision, and we want to make sure that we grow Aisha Tech as well. So even though we have Agile Compass Consulting, please feel free to reach out to us via Agile Compass Consulting or via Aisha Tech, right? So we have our LinkedIn page, Agile Compass Consulting, where you can reach out to me. You can also reach out through Agile Compass Consulting at gmail.com, or you can reach out to Aisha Tech. Either of that, please feel free to reach out to us as needed. Thank you.
That's very, very nice. And Coach Maureen actually started with us for, it's been a while now, right? Since when
Yeah,
she was
yeah.
a junior Scrum Master, and now I am just super, super proud of you. I literally saw you grow from your early days to now be like a lead senior coach at your work. This has been a huge honor to work with you, and it's very, very nice to have you partnering with me in Aisha Tech. And to be honest, I would have not have done this without Coach Maureen. Coach Maureen have been a huge part in helping Aisha Tech and helping all of you Scrum Masters and people also that are practicing Scrum Masters. Very, very appreciative of that. And it's so nice to see you continue to grow and do your thing and also continue to partner with Aisha Tech. Very, very happy for that. Do not hesitate to email us at admin@aishascrumtech.com. I also link down Coach Maureen's Agile Compass Consulting. Oh, by the way, what happened to our ADO training? By the way, that Coach Maureen that's been teaching the ADO that stopped abruptly. We can't even find that anymore. But when are you going back to the ADO training? There's still a lot
Ah,
missing in that
I
training.
know. Life happened, but we'll get back to it.
Yeah, so definitely maybe get back to the ADO trainings for our
Yeah.
community to continue to expand and grow. And by the way, if you are interested in mentorship, do not hesitate to email us at admin@aishascrumtech.com. I also post Coach Maureen Agile Compass Consulting email and the LinkedIn. Go follow the LinkedIn channel. And also, if you have any more questions for Coach Maureen, you can also send email through that. And also, you can come to Aisha Tech too. You can also see Coach Maureen there. Anyone that also works.
Yeah.
And by the way,
We are a team. We are
yeah.
a team. So
Yeah, definitely a team. So,
yeah.
by the way, if you are all did not comment hire Coach Maureen or no hire Coach Maureen, right now is the time for you to do so because these comments can help this video get pushed out to more people and also help the page. And kindly comment down below, subscribe to this channel, and do not do not do not hesitate to reach out to us. Okay, Coach Maureen, any last word do you have before we end?
Well, I just want to say thank you for having me, Coach Aisha. It's been great working with you and to all of our mentees as well. We're super, super excited sharing this interview experiences with all of you. We hope that it is helpful. We hope that it is impactful. We hope that you're able to gain something out of this, right? So, thanks. It's a lot of work that Coach Aisha puts into this. And so I just want to appreciate you for the vision that you have and for your humility, right? Making sure that you are addressing the needs of the larger population in the Agile community. So thank you very much for having me.
It's been a pleasure. We'll bring Coach Maureen again later. So if you want me to bring Coach Maureen again, you better start commenting. Hire Coach Maureen, hire Coach Maureen. Thank you all for
Yeah.
watching. See you all again in our next video.